Welcome to another episode of The Grow Show with Glenn and
Keshelle. It's season 2, episode what?
episode 5,
Episode
6,
5.
one of them episode.
I'm excited to be back. You excited to be back?
I'm always excited to do
Why you
this.
choose to wear pink? Because I wear pink.
I love to wear what you wear. And you always
See,
say you
it's
want to be like
official
me.
now.
I say it because
He's
I know,
already
I
said
know that's
it.
what you want to hear.
He's officially admitted it.
I know that's what you want to hear, so
No,
that's
it's
why I
the
say
truth.
it. All right, so what are we talking about today?
You tell me.
So I want us to piggyback off our last topic on therapy. And then we're going to wrap this up and take it home, right? But I just want us to just talk about it from an experiential standpoint. I know we talk about the usefulness of it. And so I want to just talk a lot about it some more about from the standpoint of where some of the things come from that we do and that we take in a relationship that usually cause issues. And it's usually the small things and not usually big things. So
Yeah.
I remember some years ago, we were at BFM at the time, and Pastor Kirschdavel was preaching, and he was talking about how him and his wife Susan get into it over the toothpaste, one squeezing from the top, one squeezing from the bottom, and it created this big argument. And I'm like, wow. And we laughed at it until when we got married, and ours was, do you make up the bed right after you get up out of the bed, or do you make it up whenever you feel like making it up?
Or at all.
Or at all. And so it always, where that come from? In my house, when you get up, you make that bed up as you get up. Even if you intend to go back in that bed, then you'll have to go back into a made up bed.
Don't get me started on
So
what
in
happened
your
this
house,
weekend.
what happened in your house?
We were told to make the bed, but it wasn't an issue if we didn't.
And it wasn't enforced,
It
right?
wasn't really enforced.
Yeah.
I mean, mom would say, Abigail, Neil, my brothers, my sisters, go make the bed.
Uh-huh.
But it wasn't enforced where you getting beaten for.
Oh yeah, you just no, do not leave the bed unmade.
And listen, anyway, go ahead.
And so the point of what I'm talking about, so it come from a family structure and a family background. So now we bring that to the relationship. And I know for years that was so annoying to me when you get up out the bed and you don't make it up right away.
Yeah.
It's now 10 years later and I'm looking at it like, who's right or who's wrong? It's not a matter of right or wrong. It's not a matter of practice. And so I've learned to accept that you're not going to make up the bed as you jump up out of it. All right?
I do my best now because I
You want me
know,
to say no? You don't. Yeah, you do that. You do that
because
now.
I
But what
know it's a critical and it's important to you. And so I do it now. Do I make the bed up perfectly? No. No.
all right, and see where all this come from.
Yeah. So
So-
just to give you some context, today's episode is a bold look at self.
Yes,
How do we look at ourselves and the histories that we have and how that is affecting our bold growth?
exactly. And so a lot of the times it's very difficult to look at self.
Yeah.
And so we take looking at self as being so critical and judgmental, whereas it doesn't have to be critical. It could be just an awareness.
Yeah.
Like, where did this come from?
Where did this come
You know, why do I do it? Like, one of the things is growing up, my mother never forced me to eat all the food off the plate. And so with my son, I never forced him to eat all the food off the plate. Again, it came from an awareness that, what's the purpose of eating all the food? If you're full, you're full. If a child is full, why should they eat all the food off the plate?
Yeah.
And so we grow into our adulthood feeling that the person must eat all the food, or they're wasting your food or wasting your money, and that's an argument.
Yeah, I think this is an important conversation to have because we sometimes get into these behaviors. We get into this, and this is seen as a negative word, but it's not really a negative word. We get into this rut. This rut is really just something we do over and repeatedly, over and repeatedly, over and repeatedly. And then when we are at a place where we want to grow, we want to grow boldly, as we talk about in this season. We're wondering, why are we stuck? Or we're wondering what is hindering us. And a lot of times it's from these behaviors that we adopted, that we received, that were enforced on us, even
Or which
as
may
a child.
which may not necessarily be right or wrong. And
Correct.
I want that to be clear.
Absolutely.
It may not necessarily be a matter of right or wrong. It's just a matter of practice.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah?
And so that's what we're talking
Yeah,
about.
or a matter of preference.
Yeah.
And so I have an article, well, not an article, it was a post by one of the relationship specialists that I follow on social media. And he said that ultimately the best way to deal with trauma in therapy is it's through therapy, but it's not foolproof. Not everybody's gonna benefit or benefit from therapy. And he says, in places like the UK, there's a massive shortage of therapists, and it's very expensive. So while we talk about it, we're not saying this is the end all be all.
Correct.
We're saying this is an option.
That's an option.
All right? And he said, this is why it's also helpful to be able to self-heal. And when he said, I said, whoa, what does that mean? He said, to me, therapy simply means healing, and you don't have to see a professional to heal. Now, are you willing to have that conversation with yourself? Or is there that person in your life that you can sit down, like, I have that person in my life that we exercise every morning, and we just talk about things. We talk about life, we talk about wife, we talk about all these
Yeah.
other things. And so we're able to get that off our chest. We're able to come up to a solution among us. And so that's a form of therapy. And I didn't pay $1 for that. He didn't pay $1 for it.
If we are fortunate to be able to self-heal, then more power to us. I
But
think
I wouldn't say fortunate, because it's not.
the reason I say fortunate, because there are people, I guess just it's the same side, right? Because with therapy, you're saying, okay, you need to have money, you're at a level of privilege to be able to go to a therapist or for a therapist. Yes, totally agree. From a self-healing standpoint, I think the dynamic there is you have to have people in your life that you can trust. Because I saw the post that you shared and you referred to, and he talked about having a village.
Yeah.
And having those people you can go to. Some people don't have that.
Yeah.
So it's self-healing. Oh man, I love that.
Yeah.
It's, do we have the people that we can go to, that we can self? You're fortunate to be able to have the relationship that
See,
you
when you
have.
put it as fortunate, you
think
make it seem
so.
like it's unaffordable, it's unreachable. Because the average person have people who they're
Can
close
trust.
with. And so you just have to determine who you can trust. Like I have people in my circle, I'm not gonna speak to everybody in my circle, but I have that one person that I would speak to. And so the point of this is, it's an alternative to paying for a professional therapist.
Absolutely.
And so that self-healing is now being able to look within you. Sometimes you don't even have to talk to somebody else.
Yeah.
Talk to self. Like, where did that come from? You know, why did I do it this way?
Yeah. We have to be at a place where we are able to stop and think.
Uh-huh.
And I think that's when we talk about self-healing, having that level of awareness to say, okay, you know what? I'm stuck. I'm not growing, or this is an area that's a struggle for me. Why?
Yeah.
And asking ourselves that question and being able to stop and think and reflect. And I'm not sure how many people do that as well.
And this is why the conversation is important to have, in that we now need to take accountability, all right? And not just passing off the buck, or not just thinking it's my way or the highway, or my way is right versus your way. And that's where the conflict comes if we're talking about relationship.
Yeah.
So the conflict comes when you're doing things a particular way, and you're thinking that your way is right, or your way may be better, when it may not necessarily be right or better. And so one of the things that you want to do is identify the areas of concern. What areas in the relationship that we always having a contention about? What is my view on that? And why do I have that view?
Yeah.
Just by asking those simple questions, it could take you back to a place where you have to think it through, like, where did it come from, where I make up my bed every morning as I get up out of the bed? Because that's not a
Where did it
rule.
come from?
That came from my family upbringing and my background. You just know, you get up, you make up your bed, and you have chores.
And were you punished for it?
it punished in the sense that you would get raw if, because my mom never beat like that, right? And my dad would not always be home to know if you do it. And so it comes from, and then with me, I was a little bit more disciplined, and so I just get up and do it routinely. And so by me doing it routinely in our relationship, I do it routinely. So it coming again from a practice.
Yeah, yeah.
You see? And so the key is to look at the areas in the relationship that is causing an issue and finding out, well, really, why did I do it this way? And it's not to say that it was wrong or right. It's just questioning it, because if it's a point of contention, like we had a meeting with a group of couples the other day, right? And one of the main point of contention was that among the 8 or 9 couples, it was 10 couples there, about 4 or 5 of the wives had issues with their husband coming home, taking off their clothes and leaving it on the floor. And in my head, I'm like, do we do that in the 21st century? But where did it come from?
Where did it come from? We didn't dive, and that's a good thing. We didn't.
No, we never dived
we didn't
into where
dive
it came
into
from.
The
Right? Well,
origin.
one of the persons I know, and I know where it came from. It came from seeing a
Somewhere else.
parent do it. And so, again, it would have been a practice of seeing it done in the home, and so now you bring it to your marriage. My thing is, if it is causing a contention, that's something for you to look at.
Right. So that's
Because
the
one of the
way to
couples
go.
actually said, it's a pleasure to clean up behind her husband. When he dropped them clothes at the door, she ran and she picked it up. That's how she showed her love.
Yeah,
And so it
yeah.
was not a thing for her. You see what I'm saying?
Correct.
So if it's not a thing for her, then that's fine.
I think that's a really good point to reinforce. When we're talking about looking at self, it's identify, and especially with the lovebirds in relationships. I mean, in any area, but particularly with relationships, what is causing that contention in the relationship? And identifying that as a source of growth.
Yes.
Okay, this is an area in our relationship that if we can grow beyond, we can overcome. How do we overcome it? It first, not blaming the other person and focusing on the other person. How do we look at ourselves?
There you go. You're getting to be a big girl. You know how many years I waited to hear that coming from you? Yeah, so that's the point of this segment, to be able to look at the areas that we're having these issues in and figure out, how do we get past this? How do we grow our relationship by getting, because we had those points of contention
Oh,
and
yeah.
nobody was moving. We had plenty stalemates where, you know what, no, nobody moving forward. But we started to move forward when we picked those areas and start to say, how can we grow past
Yeah,
this?
and how do we look at ourselves? I mean, again, therapy helped, but I agree with your point. It took being willing to look at ourselves. And,
Exactly.
and it wasn't always easy, because I remember, Glenn, you would always say, don't look at me. Don't focus
Don't
on
watch
what I
me,
do.
watch
Don't
yourself.
watch what I do. You know, fix you. And so it forced us to really look at ourselves.
And then me saying that ain't mean that I don't need to fix me. It's also saying I need to fix me.
Yeah, I need to.
But I have to fix me. Or I have to be willing to acknowledge that I need to fix me.
And do you think couples, seeing that we're taking it from the angle of relationships, do you think couples should reflect with each other?
Oh, for sure. We do it all the time. We do it all the time. Where you sit down and you just talk about things, talk about the past, talk about the upbringing. And of course, we would have talked about some of these things when we were dating. But of course, you're not going to capture everything. And a lot of the stuff's not going to manifest until you start living together.
Yep.
All right? And so it's helpful to talk about it. Talk about where and then you'll find out some of your insecurities start to come up. Where did that come from? Yeah?
Yeah.
You start to find out that you have some issues that stem from your family that you didn't even think was an issue back then. You know, you didn't recognize it as an issue until it started to affect your relationship.
Yeah. I like this.
Yeah. And also, you have to look at what past relationship too that you may have that you may be bringing some of that baggage over into the relationship. Again, because if I was hurt in a particular way, right, and I'm in a new relationship, I don't want to be hurt that way again, so I may be guarded.
Yeah.
Yeah?
I think what's important too, when we think about this, and you know, as you were talking, I was thinking through our relationship. And one of the things that I had to reflect on was where this trigger, because all of us have triggers, and that's really what it boils down to, where this trigger of feeling attacked came from.
And I used to trigger you a lot.
You still do. No, you don't trigger me as half as much anymore.
I used to trigger you a lot.
Oh yeah, a whole lot.
So the problem was you needed to find out why you're being triggered.
Right. So I used to blame him a whole lot for, I just feel as if, okay, he's always attacking me. He's always, and Glenn is very tough, y'all. Okay, let me just be real. He's very tough. I don't know. I don't know if I said this on a show before, but when I first met Glenn, before we started dating, I really legitimately thought that he was going to be a pushover. Okay? I'm like, oh, he looks soft.
I got around my little finger, I got him.
Yeah, I got. No, no. Mind you, he's a Gemini, so he could turn both ways, I think, but generally he's not a pushover. And so he comes off very strong. He has very strong opinions. When he speaks, he's very authoritative. And so, and no matter how simple it is, that's just how he comes up. And then he speaks with passion. And half the time that passion sounds like rowing. Okay?
Where did that come from? That's what I had to ask myself. Where did this come from? Again, that's been my family dynamics. So you having a conversation, and you could think this whole house rowing, but it's a conversation. Ain't nobody rowing.
I've had to sit there.
Yeah.
Keep your voice out. I had to. And then the flip side of it is that I had issues with that because I always felt as if he was either rowing or he was attacking me or judging me. And then from my vantage point, I had to stop and ask, like, why do I think that? Why do I think he's always coming at me? And that was stemmed from my childhood, from a place of, wow, I felt as if just there was such nitpicking in my childhood, right?
From where? From who? From how?
Me ain't going there.
No, say it, because if I have to say mine, you have to say yours. Let's let it out. Let's let this be a healing moment. Say it, where it came
I
from.
just felt like I love my mom to death, but I mean, she had the best for us, but it was no matter what happened, instead of focusing on, okay, what you did right, and I think many kids can relate to this, it was, okay, what are you doing wrong? What's not happening? And that was a real focus in my childhood, right? And so carrying that into marriage, everything felt like he was nitpicking at me. Everything.
Well, if you'd only listened to mommy in the first place, you wouldn't have been. I play with you.
And so I had to stop, reflect, and look at myself and say, okay, you know what? All right, that's where the trigger is. Yeah. And many days I had, this is over time now, and that's the point as well. Sometimes healing and growth takes time, it's not overnight. Many days I had to stop, and instead of react to his conversation, his words, or what have you, I had to say, okay, no, what is Glenn really saying? What is Glenn really doing? Is he trying to hurt me? No, he's not trying to hurt me. Okay, why am I feeling like I'm being attacked? All right, is he really attacking me? No, he's not really attacking me now. Is he talking a lot? Is he talking strong? Yes, he's talking strong.
And I used to nobody talking strong to me from I was growing up. My daddy don't talk strong to me. When my mommy talks strong to me, because my daddy don't talk strong to me, and so it comes back again.
I had to literally go through that process in my mind to get to a place where I'm like, no, I shouldn't be upset with Glenn. I shouldn't have an issue with Glenn at this moment, because it's really not about me. What is he really saying? And versus what am I making it out to be because of my own history?
I'm smiling because you have grown.
No,
oh my
so
God.
now today, while he still annoys me some days, while he is still very strong when he communicates, even today I was like,
the process before we got to the show.
This dude. But I deal with it a lot differently. I don't make a story about it as I did. And so I think that's what we are wanting to leave with you. How do you look at yourself in order to grow? And of course, we talked about it from the context of our relationship, but it's in any area of your life. Anything you want to add?
Yeah, just being aware of what is the point of contention and asking yourself, why is this happening? Where did this come from?
Yeah.
And sometimes it don't come right away, but if you take the time to deliberately think, you will start to see where some things come from your upbringing, something came from the former relationship. And so now, because you can pinpoint it, you can now deal with it. So you cannot resolve what you haven't acknowledged.
And it's really, sometimes it is having conversations, and I'll leave a quick story. I remember having a conversation with a lady some time back, and we were talking about business. I was talking about how she showed up in her business, and so it doesn't always relate to relationships. And she said she is so afraid of asking for help, which I think a lot of people can relate to. But when we started to talk, she had such a level of awareness that she realized that she hated asking for help, because when she went to her mother as a child to ask for help, because her mom was so overwhelmed with life and other kids, she felt that she was ragged for asking for help from her mother. And so she grew up with this belief that, wow, I shouldn't ask for help because I was never treated. I never got the help. And when I did ask, I was more punished for it.
Yeah.
And so that is another prime example of how is it showing up in your life, and when will you stop, take the time to reflect, to look at yourself to see, why am I not achieving the growth, the goals that I've had? And is it because something that I need to reflect on and change in myself?
So we'll end on this note. In order to go boldly and to move forward, you want to take a bold look at self and just see what is it that we can adjust in order for us to grow the relationship moving forward. All right.
Until next time, go and grow